Today I am going to teach you how to add and subtract fractions. So to begin, when we are adding and subtracting fractions, we want to make sure that the denominator is the same, because that means that we have this equal amount of pieces within the whole. So since our denominator is the same, we can think of this as 4/4 plus 3/4. So whenever we add something that's the same unit, the unit will stay the same. And I know that 4 plus 3 is 7. Now I also know that this number is larger than 1 because my numerator is larger than my denominator. So I can think of this in a number bond to find my whole and then my remaining fraction. So my whole would be 4/4, and if I subtract 4 from 7, I get 3, so I have 3/4. So another way to say 7/4 would be 1 and 3/4. And this is typically the way that we would talk about fractions. So 4/4 plus 3/4 equals 1 and 3/4. Another way you can think about this is by using a number line. I'm going to make my number line go from 0 to 2, so I will have 1 in the middle. And I know I need to break up each whole into 4 pieces because that's what my denominator indicates. So here's my second whole. This needs to be broken up into 4 pieces. Now I start with 4/4, so I'm going to start right here. And now I need to move up 3/4. So 1, 2, 3. And I end here. This was 4/4. So 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. And again, we wouldn't say our answer is 7/4. We would then want to use a number bond to decompose and get our whole number and our fractional piece. So our answer would be 1 and 3/4. You can do the same with subtraction. So my units are the same. You can draw a number line if this strategy works well for you. I know I need 8 pieces in my whole. I have 0 here, 1 here. Now I'm going to start at 6/8. So 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. And I'm going to subtract 4/8. So I need to hop back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know I have 1/8, 2/8. So my answer is 2/8. Another way I can think about that is 6 minus 4 is 2. And then my unit, my denominator, stays the same, 2/8. I proved it with my number line. Now we can also add and subtract fractions when we have a number that begins larger than a whole. So to make it easier to add these fractions, it's a good idea to do a number bond. And think about 1 whole is the same as 5/5. And then I have my fractional piece, which is 1/5. So I know 5/5 plus 1/5 is actually 6/5. And I'm adding that to 2/5. So again, my denominator is the same. I can also use a model to represent this. So I could draw a tape diagram. I know I need 5 pieces in my whole. Sorry, this tape diagram is not how we would expect to see it in class. It's a little bit messy. My whole is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is one whole. And then I would need another whole. Here's my other whole.
Huh?
I'm taping. I have 6/5, so I'm going to shade my 6/5, and then I'm adding 2/5, so I'm going to add my 2 more. And here I have 8/5 shaded, but as we talked about before, we don't typically use 8/5 to name a fraction, so we would then need to think about this in terms of a whole. So that would equal 1 whole and 3/5. Okay. Next, I can do the same with subtraction. So I know that my 1 1/4 would equal 4/4 for my whole, and my fractional unit is 1/4. So I can draw my model. I have my 1 whole, has 4 pieces in it. But I also have, I'm going to need to represent another whole. Now I started with 1 1/4, so I'm going to shade my 1 whole and then my 1/4 piece. And now I need to subtract 3/4, so 1, 2, 3, and that leaves me with 1, 2, 2/4. So this is how you can add and subtract fractions that have the same denominator.